All right, so we had some firsts, I think there, Alex. We had the look of terror on Regina's face when I said I had a Regina Phelps story.
Yes.
And then the look of surprise on your face when
When
she
everybody
actually, I don't think that was our most exciting segment of the 2 days.
Yeah, we all made funny faces and waved our hands in the air there.
I love it. I don't even know.
That'll make a great video. I can't
I'm
wait to
not
see
sure
that.
what a smooth transition is from that to our next topic.
Yeah. How do you go?
I have a bunch of serious stuff, but
Yeah, now we have to get serious again.
I don't think that's appropriate. Let me try and find something lighter, something nice and light we can talk about
Yeah.
afterwards. Maybe we should start with, let's do something casual. What our our on the air sign is not on. My apologies. Let's talk about what we're reading right now.
Yes.
I think we should do something a little lighter before we jump into
to serious
some
things
other
again.
categories.
Well, I finished everybody knows I love to read fantasy, and I finished a fantasy book the other day. It was based on Finnish folklore, so that was interesting. I finished book on awareness.
How do you find? I love how you find these books. So, a book on Finnish folklore. How'd you find that? Let's start with that.
Well, I know we were kind of bashing Amazon a little bit earlier,
Amazon Prime has everything to my house. So
Amazon is how I find it.
Okay.
Usually I find one book I like, and then I just kind of scroll down to, it gives you 15, 20 other suggestions. And I tend to scroll across there. Okay, what's along that? And this one was called the Fargoer, I think it was called. I thought, oh, Finnish folklore, that's interesting. Never read anything like that. So,
of course.
So I picked that up. Finished that. I finished a book by Pema Chodron regarding meditation and some Buddhist practices. I forgot the name of the title because I finished that one. And now I am reading The Prepared Leader by Erica James and Lynn Perry Whitten. I've actually reached out to them to see if they would be guests on the show. Considering they're both deans of universities, I got a feeling I might not hear from them, but it's a great book. Lots of good information in here, so I recommend it. And what attracted me right off the bat was this title, The Prepared Leader. And I thought, oh, wow, I got to look at that. So this is a good one. I recommend this one.
Well, you never know. You might hear back from them. Look at, we originally reached out to Kevin Newman's team a month ago. He very graciously was on the show yesterday, but we didn't pull that together until last week.
That's true. Yeah.
So hopefully those two professors come to their senses and realize they need to be on your show.
I hope so. A lot of good information in that. So what are you reading?
So I just, I guess, speed read through a book, and I did it in the reverse order. My wife and I, during Hurricane Nicole, which, was a good time, we watched a mini series on Netflix called From Scratch. And it's based on a true story of an American woman who falls in love with an Italian cook. They move to the United States. He gets cancer and passes away. So it's a happy story. And I didn't realize until after the miniseries it's based on a true story. And of course, there's a book that the woman and her sister wrote. So I had to buy that from Amazon. Yes. And it was one of those reads where, the 2 nights, it was just a very quick read, but, very interesting story about love and loss. And then some of his, the gentleman who's a chef, some of his recipes are in the back of the book.
Oh, nice.
So, fast read, great read, unexpected in terms of, we just sat down to watch something while the wind was howling outside. And then, 2 weeks later, I'm reading a book about it.
Well, I don't know what I'm getting into after this one. I think I want to concentrate on writing my book, which you should be too.
I'm working on the book. We are progressing as scheduled, so should be done and published in the first quarter.
That quick?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm working.
Wow.
Actually, I do some work here and there. So
Well, I'm dragging my feet on this one, but
yeah, but this is book like 12 for you,
9.
9, and I'm on book 1. So we got a ways to go.
What's next? We still have 10 minutes before we take a break for our final, no, not final hour. Yes, final hour.
Final hour.
I can't believe it's already 25 to 2.
We've got since we had that nice transition, let's go into something nice and somber as an awkward. No, but one thing in the news I've been thinking about that I wanted us to spend some time on. I'm kind of confused why more people in the West, United States and Canada, are not talking about what's happening in Iran. So some context there, national and widespread protests
Mhm.
occurred just about 2 months ago with the death of a young Kurdish Iranian woman. She fell into a coma after being beaten by Tehran's so-called morality police, right? And the genesis of her alleged crime was her purported failure to properly veil her hair. There's been increasingly escalated protest over the last 2 months. More and more women and I guess women and older girls are taking their veils off. They're refusing to wear them. You're seeing this level of it feels like it's bubbling towards
It does.
a tipping point, and everything we've studied in history, revolutions occur, things are kind of a slow build and quiet, and then all of a sudden you have revolution. And I find it interesting that this story's not really been largely portrayed in the media. I mean, it's in the media, but it's not top of the fold. It's not top of the web page. And from a business continuity and risk standpoint, if any country in the Middle East were to have a government topple, a government disruption, that has huge effects on the rest of the world, certainly geopolitically, but also, let's be honest, because of oil.
Yeah.
And what we
Yes.
talked about yesterday with Putin and Russia and oil in the winter, any instability in the Middle East becomes a supply chain disruption, becomes a business continuity
Mhm.
disruption. So looking through our lens as North Americans and then our lens as business continuity and resilience professionals, why do you think this isn't a bigger topic of discussion?
Well, maybe it's the Canadian US thing because it's on the news every night here.
Okay.
I hear about it all the time. I watch it on the news every day uh, because there are a larger Iranian population here than I believe in the US.
But do you see like our colleagues? I haven't seen a webinar on it. I haven't seen a LinkedIn post. Like I feel like our colleagues, I haven't seen anything.
Well, I think part of that might have to do because of the religious and political. You can't have that conversation without bringing politics and religion into it. Morality police. Well, the morality police exist because of the was it Sharia law?
Mhm.
Sharia law that Iran follows. So you can't help but bring that in, and I think that scares a lot of people to talk about. But they will talk about it in the economic frame.
Yeah.
Which you mentioned, the oil, the instability that could bring to the region, and the impact to supply chain, of which we do talk about all the time.
Yeah.
So I think there's a fear of that too, and because of the religious and let's face it, the climate of in the world really about talking about some of those subjects, it's kind of be careful where you tread. So I think a lot of people will just stand back and only look at it from an economic perspective, not a human perspective, because it is becoming a human disaster. There are a few hundred people that have been killed, if I recall correctly.
Correct.
And there are people now that are being put on trial with no evidence whatsoever, and now there's being sentences given for death penalties. So there's becoming a human tragedy here, but people are afraid to talk about that because who knows what could happen. I think maybe there's echoes here from previous confrontations in that region, and they don't want to start other fires. So we will only look at it from a supply chain oil economic perspective.
Yeah, I think though we as continuity and resilience professionals do a disservice to our profession and to the management of our organizations because we don't want to talk about these situations. These are, whether the genesis is religious or moral or not, these are going to become business continuity type issues. And how many times do we wait until it's obvious things are a problem before we approach management? We should be always seeking to give advice and be proactive with management. And, we've seen some of our colleagues very aggressively look at and talk about because of what's happening in Ukraine, here's what could happen to the rest of Europe. Here's what could impact our organization. And just because something's happening in Iran that may be religious in nature, the implications are still going to be, could play out to the same levels. And we talked about those awkward conversations.
Yeah.
I'd rather you be having awkward conversations with management when there's still time to do stuff and scenario and chew on and analyze, as opposed to, well, a government's just fallen. Now we're reactive.
Yeah.
So,
But it's fear. It comes down to fear, and I'm probably going to get a couple of emails for this, but that's okay. Everything is so PC
yes.
that it's afraid. People are afraid to have those conversations, even though I agree with you. We need to have some of these conversations, maybe not about everything, but there are some things we need to discuss. What could happen? How will we be impacted? Hey, even though with all these sanctions on Iran, we still get such and such. We can still be impacted this way because they're next door to whoever that we do deal with on a regular basis. And the spillover, we got to look at that kind of thing. And we have employees, let's say, that go there. We only have 5 people there, but they represent us. So if something happens to them, our name gets in the news. How do we deal with that? How do we communicate with that person? How do we protect those people? How do we get them out of the country? All those kind of other situations come into play, but there's a fear of bringing that forward.
Yeah, I think we need to be mindful to separate that an issue or an incident can be political or religious in nature. It doesn't mean that our discussion of it has to be political or religious in nature. It can be factual. If we are a company with people or process or technology in a part of the world where things are happening, we don't have to make commentary on why it's happening or whether we agree that it's happening. But I think we do owe it to have those conversations with management proactively. Here is something that is trending up in terms of risk. And to your point, coming back to Iran, you've had over 300 people killed. You've had protests now entering into the second month. History has generally showed you have that kind of longevity, it doesn't tend to just dissipate.
That's right.
It keeps bubbling up. And a lot of our professionals are going to wait until after the fact to then come to their company and say, here's the impact to our organization.
Yeah. I agree. And I think on that note, we've come to the end of our fifth. I said fifth at the beginning, right?
17th.
Fifth hour.
75th.
So we have one more hour to go. We're going to take a 15-minute break or so. And we will start doing some wrap up.
Yeah, we'll wrap up.
And thanks to Resilience Think Tank for sponsoring this last hour.
Yes, hour 9 or hour 8, I don't even
Whatever
know.
it is,
Brought to us by the Resilience Think Tank, which is dedicated to providing independent guidance and research to the risk and resilience industry.
If you like that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.